We have breaking news in the world of sports. We'll go to Marina Sievert with an update on the Les Miles controversy.
Thanks, Alex. Well, according to a statement posted just moments ago by Kansas Chancellor Doug Girod, it appears that Jeff Long is no longer the athletic director at the University of Kansas. Now, early reports were saying that Long had been fired, but according to this statement, Long told Girod earlier today that he is stepping down from the position, so more of an agreement than a termination as previously reported. We don't know a whole lot yet, but it appears that Kurt Watson, quote, one of KU's most trusted advisors, as per Doug Girod, will fill in as athletic director. Jenna Wilson and I will have more in sports, so make sure to stay with us.
Live from the studios at the University of Kansas, you are watching KUJHTV News.
Hello and welcome to KUJH. I'm Emily Johnson.
And I'm Alexander Worth. Jeff Long is not the only one out of a job, though. He joins KU head football coach Les Miles as Jayhawks released by the university just this week.
Miles was under investigation for events that resurfaced from a 2013 misconduct report.
This report details Miles making inappropriate advances towards women while working as head coach at LSU. One of these accusations says Miles kissed a woman on at least one occasion.
A statement released on Monday night by now former athletic director Jeff Long said he is saddened for our university and football program. And that is our goal, just to win football games.
The University of Kansas claimed to not know of these accusations against Miles until last week. This appears to have been incorrect given the recent release of Jeff Long. Les Miles has denied most of the allegations against him. And graduate students and staff members are hoping that their voices are heard after protesting against KU admin over budget cuts.
The proposed budget cuts would eliminate 40% of the 1,100 graduate teaching assistants at KU, leaving many without a job.
Dozens showed up for the protest, which started at the KU Memorial Union before heading to Strong Hall. While outside of Strong Hall, contract negotiations between Graduate Teaching Assistant Coalition and KU administration took place. The protesters chanted multiple different statements. Let's take a look.
The chancellor and provost state the budget cuts come with the $75 million fiscal year shortfall. KU is still considering if the policy will be implemented, leaving hope for a change in their decision by protesters.
Just hours ago, the House of Representatives passed President Biden's $1.9 trillion COVID relief bill.
The 600-page bill passed by a vote of 220 to 211. The vote was strictly made on party lines. Here's what Senator Bernie Sanders thinks about the bill.
This is the most significant legislation for working people that has been passed in decades.
The legislation will now move to the president's desk, where he will sign it in the coming days. Once President Biden does sign the bill, people will be seeing $1,400 in their bank account as early as next week.
This is the third stimulus check passed since the pandemic began 1 year ago. This bill will provide money to over 90% of American households. And it's crazy to think about how different our lives were just 1 year ago. As we creep up on the 1 year mark of the pandemic, students and faculty members are reflecting on how their lives have changed because of coronavirus. Lead reporter Steph Manchin has the story.
1 year ago today, the students, faculty, and staff at the University of Kansas packed their bags and headed all across the country for spring break. Little did they know they would not step foot back on campus until the following fall.
An entire campus had been uprooted and moved to a foreign learning environment we now comfortably refer to as Zoom. Administrators and faculty members had to mobilize quickly to create an effective plan of action. Director of Student Housing Sarah Waters said that due to a number of factors, including many students needing to stay in on-campus housing as cases began to rise, she and her team kept working.
Somebody had to engage with the students still that were here, right? And those are face-to-face engagements and interactions. I know there were a lot of my colleagues that were able to go and do their core jobs from home remotely, but didn't necessarily understand the stress of what I would call the essential workers.
Waters said she knew without something as fundamental as housing in the midst of a pandemic, the impact would be detrimental to the community. Sanjay Mishra, who came into his role as University Governance President at the end of May, said that when the pandemic began, all that came to mind was what evacuating campus would mean for the future.
Students were going to miss out. And we'd have to go into a mode of teaching, which I want to say most, significant majority of the faculty had not experienced. Just going online doesn't mean hit a Zoom button and you know what to do.
Reflecting back on what classroom procedures looked like in pre-COVID times, Mishra talked about the challenges online learning has presented both students and faculty.
I am looking at an 11-inch screen, and I'm trying to fit 40 people into this screen. How can I have an interaction with them?
Next week, I'll be checking in with KU students to see how the last year has impacted our Jayhawk family. In Lawrence, Steph Manchin for KUJH.
Thank you, Steph. And the trial of Derek Chauvin began Monday, which we'll be watching very closely, as will the rest of the world.
The former Minneapolis police officer is facing charges of second-degree unintentional murder and second-degree manslaughter for the killing of George Floyd last May.
The graphic video of Floyd being killed sparked international outrage and months of protests calling for police reform. These are pictures from protests on Massachusetts Street from last May. On Tuesday, the Minneapolis court began the process of finding 12 jurors, which will prove to be a tall task. The court is vetting jurors very carefully as millions of people around the world have seen the graphic video of Floyd's death. Anyone with prior beliefs or convictions about the case will not be allowed to be on the jury. And if jury selection is an indication, the trial is expected to take a couple weeks or even months.
Halen Wilhite, our KUJH weather correspondent, is here to give us an update on what we can expect for the rest of the week. Halen, it's a little windy today. Should we expect more wind this weekend?
Yes, that wind is certainly howling today, but good news is that it is only going to be remaining for most of the day. But going into the next few days, though, we are going to be seeing rainy days ahead, which is very much needed here in Kansas, and also the potential of severe weather this afternoon. I'll have more coming up, more details coming up on that on your full KUJH weather forecast.
You may not hear it at first, but it's there. Our chant, rising. On this summit, callings converge, voices unify into a chorus that sounds out for good, for greatness. Can you hear it?
Welcome back. According to a COVID update released yesterday by Douglas County Public Health, the number of active COVID cases dropped to 252, while the cumulative total rose to almost 9,000. The average positivity rate dropped to only 2.4%.
The CDC released new COVID guidelines for those who have been fully vaccinated. The CDC still recommends wearing a mask when in public, but those who are fully vaccinated can visit with other fully vaccinated people without wearing masks. They can also visit indoors with those who are at low risk for COVID.
With the reopening of Douglas County, face coverings are still required while inside public spaces, and restaurants and bars no longer have a mandatory closing time. As vaccines are rolling out at a higher rate, our own Matt Mitchie has a look at where in Kansas you can stand in the vaccination process.
Thanks, Emily. Now, last time we had a vaccination update was in February 18th, and it looked pretty grim back then. Kansas was in the bottom 5 of basically every metric. But when we look here, what we want to see is exponential growth, not linear growth. So we want to see more vaccinations happening every day, and that rate continue to increase as every day goes on. And luckily, that is what we're seeing. When we look at February 18th, one dosage rates in Kansas were at 10%. They've jumped in the last 21 days to 17%. That's a bigger rate than happened across the United States. The same case is also true for full vaccinations. This is very good news because it means that even though Kansas is currently underneath the United States average vaccination rate, it means that it's increasing at a more exponential rate. So the more that we look at these graphs, we want to see them do a loop like this. We don't want them to be linear like that, and that is exactly what we are seeing. And KUJH will be keeping an eye on how vaccination rates continue to grow. Alex and Emily, back to you.
The University of Kansas parking situation is notorious among students. KUJH reporter Matthew Johnstone shows us from the perspective of student workers.
Few things in life are certain: death, taxes, and receiving a parking ticket from the University of Kansas. Whether heading to class, an in-person on-campus event, or to work, the likelihood of receiving the dreaded $25 ticket is high. This happened recently to senior Ethan Shields, who received his parking ticket after working a 3.5-hour shift at the Lead Center of Kansas.
I've worked at the Lead Center for 3 years now. I was told I either park in this lot, which is normally where I park for almost every shift I've ever done, or else park across the way, right over the hill. I live across town. I definitely feel like it's not justified. It costs $279 to park across the hill. I cannot buy parking permits for this parking lot.
At minimum wage, the standard amount of pay for a student worker at the university, it would take Shields and students like him 38.5 shifts in order to produce enough money to buy a parking pass.
At that point, that's not really a wage, that's an internship. That's an unpaid internship at that point.
For KUJH News, I'm Matthew Johnstone. Back to you in the studio.
Now, Shields has recently contacted KU Parking for ticket forgiveness to no avail. Emily, have you ever gotten any ticket for parking in KU?
I actually got one about last year, and it was honestly my fault because I kind of knew where I was parking, so I can't be too angry about it. But have you?
I have. I got it actually on the way to the journalism school back in September, I'd like to say. Haven't paid it, so if you're watching this, shh. Haskell University is being sued by its paper editor-in-chief, Jared Nolly. For our own Matt Mitchie spoke to Nolly about his lawsuit and his fight for free speech.
When Jared Nolly became a student at Haskell University, he had never had any newsroom experience. Now, as the editor-in-chief of the nation's oldest Native American student newspaper, Nolly is at the center of a fight for free speech.
So I'm learning all the skills, how to do things as I'm facing these censorship challenges.
Nolly is suing the university and its president, Ronald Graham, after Nolly received a directive that he alleges restricted his rights to free speech.
As a student, I was covering issues that I thought were important that needed to be told, and some of those were very critical of the university.
The directive ends by demanding that Nolly treat the university with respect and outlined a list of regular practices that Nolly could not do at risk of violating the student code of conduct.
I was definitely shocked by the language in it. There's a lot of characterization in the directive, which totally turns regular journalism practices on its head.
Despite numerous advocacy groups urging Graham to rescind the directive, it took 90 days of silence before he did so. And in response, Nolly filed the lawsuit. This is the full 72-page suit, and what it all boils down to is this. Jared alleges that the university violated his free speech rights with the directive, and through their silence issued an unconstitutional prior restraint. And so far, the university has responded to the suit with the same thing it has since the beginning: silence. At the end of all this, Nolly hopes that the suit will be able to help other students in similar situations.
Everything like this, all the court decisions, they move the needle either forward or backward, and I'm hoping that this is something that moves the needle forward.
For KUJH, I'm Matt Mitchie.
We will continue to keep you updated on how Haskell University reacts to the lawsuit.
And coming up on KUJH News, we'll have the latest entertainment. Don't go anywhere.
Welcome back. Young Rock, deep fakes, and the royal family. Stephanie Morales-Macedo has more.
Thanks, Emily. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson came out with a new sitcom on NBC called Young Rock, which follows the story of his life growing up. Because of COVID-19, the show was shot in Australia following COVID protocols. One of the main characters in the show is The Rock's dad, Rocky Johnson, but the actor who plays him grew up in Kansas City. I had the opportunity to talk to Joseph Lee Anderson and his experience playing Rocky Johnson.
I was born into a wrestling family.
Your dad was wrestling superstar Rocky Johnson.
The soul man, Rocky Johnson, that was him.
With the passing of The Rock's father in January 2020, there was a pressure on Joseph Lee Anderson's shoulders to play Rocky Johnson right, but everyone was putting pressure on him except The Rock.
I think everyone else was putting pressure on me except for him, so that kind of made me feel a lot better.
One of Anderson's biggest challenges was the training. He was given 2 months to gain over 30 pounds and weigh 250. But even though he had a personal trainer, the process was hard.
When you get to that level, at this level, they pay for you a trainer. and it made it a lot easier. But at the same time, COVID was out, so it was hard to like get in the gym and do different things.
Young Rock is full of intense wrestling scenes that Anderson had to master in 3 days. But he said that he had a helping hand from one of the best in the business.
Chavo Guerrero, he used to be in the WWE and all that. He was our wrestling coach on the show. So that was pretty cool. He would teach us the match, and then we would just walk through it, learn all the moves.
The journey from Kansas City to Hollywood was a lot of work for Anderson, but he said that all of the blood, sweat, and tears was worth it.
And ever since then, just been working my way through the industry, working different markets and things like that to get to this point I'm at now.
It's always nice to see a local Kansas City actor making it big. Young Rock airs on NBC Tuesdays at 7 or can be streamed on Hulu. TikTok is teaching people new dances, new foods, and recently, how easy it is to deceive others online. Lauren Hugo has the latest on deepfake technology and how it's tricking people on social media.
Thanks, Stephanie. A deepfake video of Tom Cruise went viral on TikTok last week as an impersonator did magic tricks and played golf with the actor's face on his. The TikTok was entertaining to most, but so convincing that it sparked conversation about the dangerous potential that deepfake technology has.
It's the real thing. I mean, it's all the real thing.
Fake content is not new. However, deepfake technology uses artificial intelligence to digitally manipulate and place a person's face on somebody else. The machine learning, as demonstrated by the TikTok, is only getting harder to detect. This fact has larger implications for everyone, as deepfakes can be used to mislead people to believe a celebrity, politician, reporter, or even spouse did something that just never happened. I spoke with Professor Hong Tin Vu from the journalism school, who recently did a study on the susceptibility of fake news.
And deepfakes can be very difficult because when we talk about deepfakes, we talk about visual, right? And usually people tend to be to believe in visuals more than they believe in words.
Professor Vu's advice was simple.
You cannot just trust anyone that you come across online.
Tom Cruise has not commented on the videos. However, he now has a verified TikTok account with 23,000 followers, as his copycat counterpart has gained over 500,000. For KUJH, I'm Lauren Hugo.
Thanks, Lauren. The royal family made headlines when Meghan Markle said she felt like the Little Mermaid in her recent interview with Oprah Winfrey. Jordan Nicole has the latest.
On Sunday, March 7th, Meghan Markle and Prince Harry sat down with Oprah Winfrey for a groundbreaking interview in California. The couple has been at the center of British press for the past few years, but the media's scrutiny heightened when the Prince and Princess of Sussex left the royal family. The world got to witness a rare interview which discussed the pains and trauma that led up to their Megxit. Prince Harry and Meghan decided to leave the Commonwealth because they claim they did not feel protected. Markle said that she was told her son would not receive a title or security even though he was a part of the royal family. If the title meant he was going to be safe, then of course, she said. She says she found out from her husband that members of the royal family were concerned about how dark the child's skin tone would be. Meghan said that the institution played a huge role in how she was perceived in the media. She revealed to Oprah that Kate Middleton made her cry before the wedding, even though the media said the opposite. The pressures of adjusting to the media and not receiving professional help from the institution left Meghan feeling suicidal. Prince Harry told Oprah that they've been living off the money that his mother left him because he thinks she knew they would eventually leave. Let's take it to the streets of KU to see what students think about this heavy loaded interview.
That the royal family weren't very sentimental towards her feelings towards her mental health, so I definitely think that issue during the interview was a big part of something.
I'm Jordan Nicole with KUJHNews.
Thanks, Jordan. That's it for entertainment. Next week, Jordan, Lauren, and I will have another roundtable, but this time for the Grammys. When we come back, Halen Wilhite will give us a full weather update. Stay with us.
with your KUJHNews weather update. Taking a quick look outside right now at temperatures. Check these numbers out. 76 for Lawrence, 78 in Topeka, and 75 in Leavenworth. It is absolutely gorgeous out there, although that wind is certainly gusting. Check that out. For winds coming from the south at 25 to 39 miles per hour, and even gusts blowing up to 40 to 45 miles per hour. So definitely want to hold on to your hats if you're outside right now. But going into the evening, those winds will start to die down and will be dropping from 76 at 5 p.m. to 56 at 11 p.m. And also in store for tonight, we actually might be getting some rain and thunderstorms. But for right now, we're going to be dropping to a low at 41 and winds from the northwest at 9 to 22 miles per hour. And with these incoming storms, there is a slight risk for severe weather. Right now, the current KC metro area is under the slight risk of severe weather, and those. But right now, the radar. This is what the futurecast is looking right now. Around 10 o'clock to 3 o'clock in the morning on Thursday, that's when this cold front's going to move in, and it's going to bring potentially some quarter-size hail to gusty winds, but very low tornado threat and very low flash flooding too. So it would be more localized, but it's just a potential to keep an eye out for. But tomorrow, though, we're going to be climbing back up to 60 degrees with cloudy skies and winds from the north-northeast at 8 to 13 miles per hour. And looking at the rest of this week, it's looking a little dreary, but yeah, 60 degrees for Thursday, as I mentioned, and then Friday, Saturday, Sunday, rain, which is absolutely great for us, but it'll be a dreary weekend for us, and we're going to be sticking to the 50s and 40s probably going into next week. But just a reminder, this Sunday, it is daylight savings time, so be sure to remember to bump your clocks up to an hour. Excuse me. We will be back after this break.
Where you go to college makes a statement about you. This place will become a part of you, your identity for life. The University of Kansas, a great place to be you.
Welcome back. Coming up with sports, we have some KU basketball updates, including my personal favorite, Paul Pierce being named for a finalist for the Naismith Hall of Fame, and a look at the KU rowing team.
Let's now send it over to Jenna Wilson. Jenna, there's a lot going on with sports at the moment, but first and foremost, what is the update on Jeff Long?
Well, guys, just 2 days after the University of Kansas and Les Miles mutually parted ways, we now are hearing from many sources that athletic director Jeff Long has parted ways from KU. Brett McMurphy of Stadium broke the news in a tweet about an hour ago, but KU Athletics has yet to officially confirm this information. I have Marina Seaver here with me to talk about what this can mean for KU Athletics.
Yeah, thanks, Jenna. Well, first and foremost, we actually do now have confirmation from KU Athletics that Jeff Long has left the University of Kansas as athletic director. Again, early reports were saying that he had been fired, but it looks now that it was a mutual agreement between him and Chancellor Douglas Girod. Of course, right away, speculation about who will fill this role, because an hour ago, Kansas thought its biggest unknown was who would coach its football program. But now we don't have an athletic director. Of course, Kurt Watson has been named the interim, but someone needs to take that position full time. And like I said, speculation already heating up. CJ Moore of The Athletic covers college basketball, and he talked about how Danny Manning potentially wanting to fill that hole as athletic director. So lots to talk about, lots unknown, and we'll definitely keep everyone updated.
Absolutely. This is something we'll be following closely and updating as we get more information.